So like I said, thank you everyone for coming. We'll try to keep it brief and not take too much of your time, but we want to really jump into, we're excited about our first episode of our webinar series about competency management. And today we're going to dive into building a skills matrix and what that entails. I have my partner Kate with me. She is our subject matter expert of our product, the Competency Manager. So that's an enterprise framework that manages competency and credentialing and compliance management. Kate works with a long list of customers in several different regulated industries where she implements a holistic approach to managing the competencies and compliance, and she organized different business growth objectives according to the organization that she's working with. And myself, I come from a background of being a SharePoint administrator, and I now handle B2B sales for CABEM with our Competency Manager, our vendor risk tool, and array of other custom solutions and integrations that we do. So let's take a look at the agenda. To start, we're kind of going to look at some examples of inefficient skills matrices that we've seen in the past, that we've used in the past. And then Kate's going to kind of take you through the progression of the levels of working with skills matrices. So from perhaps not having a solution at all to having some type of a skills matrix with your personnel in some type of a spreadsheet or a smart sheet, having personnel qualification cards behind that skills matrix for each employee, having a competency-based framework that works around that matrix, and then ultimately having an automated software solution. So the goals that Kate's going to try to help you with is showing you how to create a qualification card in Excel for each employee, how to connect those qual cards and roll it up into one skills matrix that you have oversight of the entire organization, and then how to use that skills matrix, how to leverage it specific to your organizational needs, and then ultimately how we create that in our product, the Competency Managers, and the advantages that you see from that. So what exactly is a skills matrix? Why do you need it? What problems does it solve? And ultimately, it proves employee compliance over a set of requirements. So it identifies the skills set for specific jobs. It standardizes the role requirements across your organization, and then it shows proof that said requirements and said compliance is met. So it's certainly a requirement of highly regulated industries, and it's an efficient tool when audits come around.
Great. So I'm going to take over for James now. Thanks, James, for the intro. We're going to go through some examples of skills matrix, real examples that we've seen and come across. And we'll take a look at the advantages and disadvantages, and then we'll take a look at what we're calling the balanced approach for competency management, and we'll help you get there. So no matter where you are on your journey of learning and development and tracking compliance, whether you have no solution in place, whether you're using spreadsheets now, any place that you are on that journey, we're hoping that this will be beneficial for you. So I'm going to move to the next slide. And this is my first example. This is a skills matrix. This is actually our company, CABEM's first ever skills matrix about 20 years ago. So even we were struggling with how to capture our workforce's skills and proficiency levels. This was what we were using. You'll see it's a list of all the employees. We were small. And all of the training and competency topics. So whether you refer to it as a skills matrix or a competency matrix, for the purposes of this webinar, I'm just going to call it a skills matrix. So what this is, while this gives us a picture of the status of where everyone in the company stands with their requirements here, it's still a manual process. So someone's got to go in and update this. We can see that people are competent or need training or retraining, but really, where is the proof? What training course did they take? How did they learn this? Who signed off on this? What date do they need to be retrained? So there's a lot missing here. It gives us definitely a picture overall, but it could be better. There's no supporting information flowing up into this to provide the proof behind all of this. So even, for example, we see Phil here it says that, he doesn't need to know Perl, but what if a project comes up where we need Phil to know Perl? I can just imagine who's going to tell Phil that he needs to learn Perl. And you can just imagine the emails going out with manager CC telling Phil what he needs to do. And then everything that goes into tracking that was done and manually coming back here and updating the spreadsheet. So it doesn't provide any additional efficiencies other than we have a status at any given time. Let's move on to the next one. So this one's very simple. The next example is a more complex example. This goes the other way. It's too complex or too robust. It's too broad and complex to maintain it reasonably. So, and also, we see that we have all of these requirements. Again, all of the employees listed here. These are examples of the types of spreadsheets that we come across when our customers come to us in varying states looking for help. So with this spreadsheet, it's complex. You can see there's other worksheets that are embedded in here. We might have to dig down to find more proof about what says someone is qualified. And you could just imagine this one has no skills matrix really overall because it's too complex to pull it together. And really, once you start updating this, who knows, a week from now that this still works. There's different people logging in here and updating this for their people that they manage. So this is an example of going the other way, too complex skills matrix. We still don't have the details of what training went into this, who taught the training or built the training, who signed off on it, those types of things. I'm going to throw it back to James for a second here.
Sure. So I'll give you a brief history on qual cards, and qual cards ultimately show the proof of meeting requirements for each employee. It was actually founded in the military. On the submarines, they would hold assessments every time someone was going to work on a specific job, and that was quite a long, daunting task. And it was something that the people in the military didn't want to do several times every time that they had to work. So finally, they created qual cards to prove on this date that they were compliant and finished the assessment. So that's just a brief history on how qual cards actually came about.
And so, we saw the skills matrix, and I keep talking about where is the proof, where's the underlying information that is really driving that skills matrix. And the key to that lies in these qual cards, and the qual cards are really where the details live. So the way really to start building a qual card to get to the end result of a skills matrix is a competency-based approach, where we start by mapping certain groups of individuals to your organization. So at the top level, we have the whole company. At this level, you might have requirements of employees where everyone in the company needs to read the employee handbook and sign off on it. It's not a training, but it is a requirement that you want to track. Next is region or location. So in some cases, you may have state laws and that you need to comply with. There might be NDA or security addendums that need to be filled out, things like that, to comply with where you are. So if you're a company that has multiple locations across states, you have different requirements you need to track. Next is by department, or sometimes we say job family. So you might have manufacturing operations and corporate sales, finance. Everybody's going to have different requirements depending on their job family and department. So for example, operations might be required to take safety training, while corporate is not as concerned with safety training. They're taking courses about their business systems. Then we have really the job role. So what do people need to know to perform their job role specifically? That might be specific trainings on machinery that they're using in their everyday job on the floor. It could be the work instructions that are required for their specific job role. And then finally, we can pull this all together for project teams. You have special project teams where you're bringing together cross-functional skill sets from any of these groups and what is required of them in that specific project team. So I'm going to show you next the balanced approach that we use with our customers to really manage this structure and give you a template for how you can get there in your own organization. So first, we'll look at this. This is the example of a competency-based framework, which is the balanced approach mapped to your organization. So you can see the name of the person. I have all the information based on the organization, location, department this person is in, and their role is a machine operator. They're on a special team for a customer that requires certain they have to be, let's say, OSHA certified in order to go on site for this customer. And then we have elective trainings. And we can see here how we've laid it out by those different categories and the requirements at each group level. And now this is where, again, the proof comes in. We see all of these columns across the top. We're tracking the priority or proficiency level to a target for a person for a specific skill or competency, if it's required or not. Due dates, sometimes there's retraining needed or expiration and renewals on certifications. We can track those retrain dates, the status of that renewal, who had the oversight on this. And you'll see down at the bottom, I have one of these for every employee who is a machine operator at ABC Company. And this will serve to standardize the requirements across that role. So if I have multiple locations within operations, different plants in different places, it doesn't have to be manufacturing. Our customers span industries. You might have machine operators at all of those locations. So this will make sure that what's required of them is standardized across the organization, which is very important for some corporations who have grown organically over time. They have acquired other companies in other locations. And when we talk to our customers, this is one thing that they struggle with, is really trying to standardize what's required for these roles and really align them to their overall business goals. So I'm going to switch to the actual spreadsheet and share that with you. Here we go. So this is the template that you're going to receive in the follow-up email to this webinar. And you can edit it to map it to your own organization. If you don't have multiple locations, you can remove that section. You can add, you can see I put categories in here, category for IT, for health and safety, which is just another way of being able to get to the root of the information that I need here. And then we have multiple, one for every person, all looking the same with the same requirements for machine operators. Now, it's important to point out here, when I keep talking about the proof, is we have a column here for where the record is found. If there's any like physical or electronic files that go along with what it took to achieve these certifications or prove they were compliant by filling out a form, we can see here where to track down the proof. It's on SharePoint, for instance, somewhere where, and we can put a link in here, or I can direct them to the LMS to see where the results of this test are that this person completed. So this is, we're not separating it out into trainings versus requirements versus compliance. It's really giving us a top-down view of everything that is required for this job role in order for these people to be successful across the organization. And now once we're tracking all of this underlying information for machine operators, we can then look at a skills matrix for these machine operators. And it's not just a list. By mapping these groups to your organization and breaking it down right to the job role level, it allows you to, even though we're still doing it manually, it makes it easier to roll up and look at it top down for all of our machine operators here. We're not just looking at a list of everybody in the company and seeing, NA for some people because they don't have to do it. We know what's required. It's listed across the top here. And what we're interested in for this, for the purpose of this webinar, is the progress towards completion for each of these requirements. So are they done or not specifically? If you are tracking proficiency ratings, let's say, and for different job roles, and machine operators are maybe required to be a level 3 for a certain activity, you can adapt the skills matrix to show the current proficiency level. And when I show you the tool, the Competency Manager application next, we have reports that will show you this as a progress towards completion. And you also have a very similar report that will show you the proficiency ratings and levels. And what we found is that when people show us, we've talked to huge corporations, we've talked to even smaller companies that are required to keep these skills matrix or want to keep these skills matrices. And while many of them are tracking the proficiency ratings, they call them different things. They might be level 1 through 5. They might be, different labels, competent, but for the most part, they're all doing the same thing, which is tracking to what we call the Dreyfus model, which is a 1 through 5 proficiency rating system from novice to all the way up to subject matter expert that has the ability to teach others. So you could adapt this to be progress towards completion or target to proficiency, or both if you need them. So this is, as you see from the original examples that we showed where it was either very simple or very complex, this is one step above that, well, many steps above that level, because we can look at the actual qualification card, see all the proof that we need, and we also have a roll-up where we can see where we stand at any given point in time. The drawbacks to this are that this has to be updated manually, especially this roll-up here needs to be maintained. And a lot of the times our customers, and I'll give you a very specific example, a customer came to us and they were very much in this state, and they felt okay about it until they got a new customer, a very big one, who said, we're going to give you this contract if you can prove to us that everyone has completed what they needed to for their job role. And when they started, you might be familiar with this because we hear this often. And when they opened up all these qual cards, all of a sudden, different managers are supposed to be updating this for the people that they manage. And there's missing data. They haven't been updated in a while. We would look across the machine operators, for instance, and see that they had different requirements. And how could that be? Or a new piece of machinery had been implemented and the qual cards had not been updated with the work instructions and the requirements and trainings for that new piece of machinery. So while there are drawbacks, it's important that you keep up with it and you have a system and you communicate the processes in place to your managers and whoever is responsible for updating it. And that all has to happen manually without an automated software system to manage that for you. So it's doable, depending, on the size of your organization, how often you're having to do this and for what reason. So I am going to, hold on one second, pull up the CABEM's Competency Manager application. the window closed in the background. Oops. Here we go. So I'm in CABEM's Competency Manager application. Now, this is an application that was designed and built specifically to address the shortcomings that we're talking about today with these manual spreadsheets and tracking of competencies and skills. So we looked at that last qualification card. What you're seeing here is really all of that information in the software in one place. So every person has a profile. We were looking at Kevin Delaney before. We can clearly see the groups that he's in the system. He's a machine operator in Anaheim manufacturing, at ABC Company in Anaheim operations. And we can see the progress towards completion of all of the requirements for those specific groups. So here we have all of the outstanding items that Kevin needs to complete. We have versioning on it for if you are required, if you're in a regulatory industry where versioning is important for auditing purposes. We have customers who are really are working towards quality management systems, ISO, things like that. So I can break these up into competencies versus certifications, for instance, but it's still right here in this profile. And Kevin can come in here and complete this right from here if he needs to. I have all of the records of the completed items in the past, even with versioning for CPR certification training, which expires and renews every 2 years. And when that expiration comes up, I don't need to make a note in my calendar with a reminder. An automatic notification goes out to Kevin, his manager, anyone who needs to know about it, that this is up for expiration and renewal, and it'll show in reports to anyone who needs to know about it. Also, on these activities, if I click into it, if there's any documentation or proof or a test that was taken, because there's a built-in LMS in the system, we also integrate with LMS. If there's a test, if there's proof of certification document that this CPR training has, you'll be able to access it right from the completed record in the system. I can get transcripts for their branded transcripts. So you can white label it with any information you need it exports to a PDF, and you can share that with customers to bid on jobs, things like that. And now we have every user has a user file library. So if I had I had been required to update a copy of my CPR certification after my training, it is, as soon as I add it to the activity as a employee completing things, that CPR certification document gets saved. Anywhere you see the activity, you can access it, and it automatically gets saved to a folder here in the user profile. And there's no worry about losing it or having it renamed to something where you can't find it later. So all of the objective proof that went into someone training or getting certified or really becoming competent is saved right on the record in the system. It's captured in real time as it's happening and occurs, and you can access and get to the information you need at any time. It's not siloed in spreadsheets on SharePoint, for example. We have the ability to incentivize employees with different badges for different proficiency levels, let's say, and these are totally customizable. We can track CEUs for professional development. We have a point system where one of our customers, a steel manufacturer, they have a community service program where they incentivize people to attend community service events and give them points, and they can redeem them right here in the system for days off, gift certificates, things like that. And we can also track hours. So this is really literally that qualification card spreadsheet in the software system, all the same information that you saw in that spreadsheet. Now, if I want to look at everyone who's a machine operator across the organization, we have the skills matrix. And you should recognize this because it looks very similar to the skills matrix in the Excel spreadsheet. We have the same names that we saw across the bottom. Each person has their own profile. I can get to it here by this link. Here's all of the requirements for the machine operator job role specifically. I have saved a filtered view of the machine operators, and this is useful when you're a manager and you're always looking at the status of the same group of people all the time. But I also have the ability with these discerning filters to look at any group level that we have structured your organization as groups in the system. So if I want to look at everybody at the top of the company level, I have the ability to do that. Or just looking at Anaheim operations overall, I can do that as well. For the purposes of this demo, I really zeroed in on those machine operators to give you a good picture of what this looks like. So using the same example, Kevin Delaney here, we were just looking at his profile and his qual card in the spreadsheet. This is what really makes the skills matrix, takes it to the next level, is it's dynamic. So from here, I see color blindness test. Kevin Delaney is at 50%. I can click into this as a manager and say, why is he at 50%? What needs to be done? What still needs to be done? What's been completed? And from here, I can see that he has completed the online training on this date. And I can even go in, and this is just a short example, and see the test results if I want to. So this is an example of, if you were a manager and you had oversight over your employees, we have all these different statuses. If something had expired and it was in a renewal state, it would be back in a person's outstanding actions to complete assigned to them. The notifications would have gone out. And as a manager, I would see clearly that this activity or requirement is sitting in an expired state here. So we have lots of reports in the system. There's a robust reporting suite. We can look at this, like I said, by proficiency ratings instead of progress to complete. We have different activity metrics, risk analysis, gap analysis is another one that's great. Once you have this, all of this information that was being tracked in spreadsheets, and you put it into this automated software structure, you have all of this data that you can get business intelligence from. You can find the right people with the right skill sets for certain projects that you have going on, for certain customers, for instance. We can really get a lot of insight about our workforce and break down the silos between quality, safety, HR, all of those different departments and stakeholders who are interested in this information.
Kate, I'll jump in. I see we have a question in the chat.
Sure.
It says, you mentioned integrating to an LMS. Can you use examples of some of the systems you can integrate with?
Yeah, really any LMS, and it's not just LMSs, but for instance, instead of building, you can build trainings in the system. We can also integrate with a Cornerstone. That's one we see a lot of the time, Docebo, any LMS really that you're using. And we can either, direct them to take the training from here where it looks like, they don't even know they're leaving the system. Or we can just pull in the status of completion of trainings. If you want to pop the Competency Manager application on top of your existing learning and development ecosystem and just pull in the status and use this for reporting purposes. And we also can pull in content from third-party content providers that are providing you SCORM packages, let's say, for a lot of the times our customers, for compliance reasons, they don't want to have to keep up with the regulatory, changing regulatory requirements. So they will purchase the content. We can do that. And also you can upload your own SCORM packages that you built with an authoring tool like Adobe Captivate, for instance, or iSpring, I think is another one. So you're not pigeonholed into one option. You can do we can do any and all of those methods combined, which we see is very helpful to larger organizations, like I mentioned before, that have acquired other locations over time. And when they've acquired these locations, they've acquired LMSs and valuable content that they want to take advantage of that wouldn't be able to without, some framework to do so. Another example of integrations is if you're thinking, how can we get all of this content in here and map this and really standardize the roles? We typically, our customers will integrate with their ERP systems or HRIS systems, and we'll work to pull in all the roles, all the different groups and the structure. And then when you have a new employee, we pull them right in to the system automatically. They get popped into the right departments and job roles and automatically get everything they need assigned to them the first time they log in. And it goes the same when someone leaves the company or switches positions. Also SSO, we integrate to work instruction software. We create really these learning and development and compliance ecosystems for customers.
I see we have a follow-up to that question. Can you also talk a little bit about what an implementation looks like?
Yes. So implementations, the way CABEM implements this with customers is we have a kickoff meeting with you. We work closely with the admin or the resources that you provide for the implementation project, and CABEM will map your organizational structure. They'll set up all the files for you, really all of the configuration in the system to get you to a point where you can get in there, start making your requirements and assigning them, and really we even help you get the users right in there. So we try to make it as painless and efficient as possible for you.
Looks like we have another question in here. I'll read to you, Kate.
Great.
What happens when I need to add a new skill/competency along the way? In the software, I imagine there's an easy way to set up the competency and assign it to users. But in the spreadsheet, do I need to manually update each user's worksheet tab with the new rows and columns?
Yes, I wish I had a better answer for that, but that is another drawback of using the Excel spreadsheet system is if you do have a new requirement that comes along, it does need to be updated in every qualification card worksheet for every user for that job role. In the system, we, behind the scenes, I'm not going to go into it here, but we have the group set up, and really it's as simple as saying, add this new requirement to the group, and it automatically gets pushed out and assigned to everyone and becomes another column in this report. So back to, so really, whether you have no solution now and you're looking for a way to start wrapping your hands around this and managing the information, if you have a skills matrix like the original CABEM skills matrix, or you have individual qualification cards for your whole workforce, or you're even using a competency-based framework like the spreadsheet, or the automated software solution. At any point in that journey, CABEM helps its customers take it to the next level. We really work right off the bat to get to the pain points that the customer is dealing with. And when I first implement the system, we make sure that we know their business goals and strategically where they're trying to get to align the setup and configuration to help them achieve their goals. And then even over time, we meet periodically. We have different professional services packages that our customers take advantage of, where they meet and we discuss their strategic goals and really how to even get more advantages out of the software. What I showed was really just a small snapshot of the capabilities. Any other questions? All right.
Awesome. Yeah, Kate, that was a great a great deep dive and walk through there. You did a great job. You know, if there's no other questions, like Kate mentioned, we're going to email you that skills matrix worksheet that you can begin to put some data into, and it's super intuitive, easy to use. You shouldn't have any problems. Like Kate said, if you're a little more of a simple organization as far as size and locations, you're able to edit that around pretty easily.
And in that template, there's also a first, there's an introduction worksheet that gives you a little background on what competency-based framework is, and the 2 templates that are supplied, as well as some best practices on how to use them.
Yeah, and then in that email, when we send that skills matrix out, you'll have all my contact information if you have any questions or want to you know take a deeper dive into the tool. Perhaps I'll certainly be available for that. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And if there's no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up at that. So I appreciate everyone joining, spending 40 minutes with us on this Thursday midday. So very appreciative of that, and hope you enjoyed what you saw.
Thank you.